Love Eternal is an unsettling, claustrophobic, disheartening experience. And I loved it. Love Eternal is the debut game from developer brlka, or I'm not really sure how to pronounce that one, brlka, do your best, and published by Ysbryd, yet another one that I'm not totally sure how to pronounce, but you may know them from last year's Everdeep Aurora and Demon School, which were two games that I was a big fan of. This game, Love Eternal, combines two genres I never would have guessed would go together: precision platforming and psychological horror. It uses a minimalist pixel art style during gameplay and features various more detailed story scenes throughout the game. You play as a young girl, Maya, who is unknowingly trapped in a dark castle of memories by a lonely deity, and the only way out is to pass through ever-increasing challenges of your skills, reflexes, and precision. Your main ability is to flip gravity. You can only do this once before landing again, unless you crash through a floating red orb. If you aren't familiar, you may be wondering what makes a game a precision platformer. The name is a strong hint. It emphasizes precision above all else. Land a little bit off, jump a little too high, and you'll have to try again. Other types of platformers tend to be more forgiving about the exact placement of your character in the world. There are elements of puzzles here, but where these kinds of games differ is that once you've figured out what you need to do, you still need to pull it off. One of the best examples I can think of is Celeste, a highly regarded indie game from 2018, but Love Eternal is similar only in its platforming challenges. It's sort of like if Celeste was made by A24, and in a world where A24 did video games, which is a world I want to live in. To clarify, this game contains many horror elements and unsettling moments, but it's not violent or gory, nor does it really use excessive jump scares. This is not a game for the faint of heart, but if you're worried about things like blood, that's not something you need to worry about here. But it's not just the horror elements that make me say that this is a game not for the faint of heart. Love Eternal has some extraordinarily challenging platforming levels. To try to put it in perspective, when I was sent the review code for this game, they let me know very kindly that the game would take roughly 4 to 6 hours to complete. It ended up taking me 10.5 hours, and roughly 5 or 6 of those hours were accounted for from just 3 levels. There was actually one level towards the end of the game that took me 3 hours to beat. Here's some footage of the earliest level that ended up taking me, I think, about an hour and 15 minutes to finally beat. When a game reaches this level of challenge, it does beg the question, why keep playing? Why spend 3 hours flipping around lasers and spikes? And the answer? Because it's worth it. When I was trying to think of what to compare this experience to, the best example that I could come up with is those trick shot videos where YouTubers are setting up ridiculous situations where they have like 6 pots and pans that they're like bouncing ping pong balls off and trying to get into like a tiny little shot glass. They often spend hours just tossing dozens of ping pong balls, trying to get the exact right spot, the exact right precision, aim, everything. But if you've seen the reactions when they finally get it, it's an incredibly satisfying feeling. That is definitely how I felt when I finally beat one of those challenging levels. I'd often stop, drop my controller, shake my fists at the ceiling, finally letting out all my frustration in a primal yell. I imagine it's a lot like beating a boss in a From Software game, even though that's not something that I've tried myself yet. But aside from that sense of accomplishment, I also found myself feeling quite sympathetic towards the protagonist, Maya. If I gave up, she would be stuck in this strange castle for eternity. In many ways, it felt like we were both kind of in it together. I couldn't just abandon Maya to her fate, so we both had to escape together. Love Eternal's challenges can be brutal, but they're still doable. I can think of many times in those 3 hours on the same level where I got almost to the end of the level and then didn't make it, had to retry. But every time I get a little bit closer, it would give me just enough feeling that I could do this and I would keep going. There's definitely going to be moments where you think it's impossible. I know I definitely did. But I got through, and you will too. It might just take some time, take a little luck, and eventually you'll get there. I do want to take a moment to talk about Love Eternal's unique visual style. It's not just the pixel art. I mean, I'm a big fan of pixel art, and this is gorgeous stuff. Maybe the most interesting thing that I noticed was the use of negative space. In the opening scenes of the game, you exist in a small rectangle at the center of the screen. Your bedroom, the hallway, and then the family dining room. It's unusual for a game to leave so much space of the screen unused. This, of course, changes once the platforming starts. It takes up the whole screen, but the game does repeatedly return to this kind of ominous, claustrophobic viewpoint, and eventually uses that negative space to reveal more of the ongoing story and perhaps what was happening outside that box all along. I would have loved this game simply for the platforming challenges, but Love Eternal also takes some big swings on the story. It's not afraid to get weird, and near the end of the game even shifts the experience to a first-person point-and-click for a little while, giving the player more insight into the overall narrative and the reason that you're stuck in the castle. Love Eternal is an unsettling, spooky, and weird horror game with some of the most challenging platforming experiences that I've encountered so far. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I highly recommend giving this a try. I'm pretty sure this is going to be at the top of my list of games of 2026 already. I know it's only February. Plus, this weird little game holds a special place in my heart because when I started this channel, this site, one of the first events I attended was PAX West 2 years ago. That's where I played this game's demo for the first time, and I immediately was hooked. I think between Love Eternal, Croak, and Tethergeist, that specific PAX really got me hooked on precision platformers, and I made a whole video about that if you want to watch it. Love Eternal is available on February 19th, and it can be played on PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, and PC via Steam and GOG. If you enjoyed this, please check out more of my videos. I have other reviews on my website. I have a bunch of videos on this channel. Of course, I already talked about that precision platformer video that I did a little while back. If you want to check that one out, I highly recommend it. There's also my website, finallygotaroundto.com, where you can go check out more of my written thoughts, including a written up version of this video review. You can subscribe here on YouTube, hit the like button, of course, please, it always helps. Or you can find me on Substack, where you can subscribe to my semi-weekly here and there newsletter, where I'll do more reviews like this. I'll do other video game thoughts, and who knows what else. But any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. And go play Love Eternal. Highly recommend it.